Oh, so the strands in the conference were STEM. Social emotional learning, transformational leadership. So when people applied or proposed, it was centered around that. I had an opportunity to drop in on some sessions. I was floored at how this thing was resonating. And even to hear someone may have chosen multiculturalism and how they were reiterate, if we're going to leave a stamp on this, even though they were discussing their research, they found ways to bring it back to why their research is important, not just to present, not just to get tenure and promotion. This research is to empower, and maybe the ones who are listening to me, when you leave my session, you are not only empowered, but you have a step. I've left a step, an impression on you to take this work to the next level.
This is Nicholas Hartlip, Robert Charles Billings Endowed Chair in Education at Berea College, and you're listening to EdUp Accelerated Excellence.
Are you listening? Listening is more than just hearing. It's the engine of transformation. When leaders truly listen, they unlock hidden insights and spark meaningful change. The power of listening turns quiet voices into catalysts for educational excellence and equity. That's why we've launched the XE Listening Tour, a journey dedicated to amplifying every voice, especially those least heard from. This week, seek out and listen to a quiet voice, a student, a colleague, or parent. Let us know what you learn about educational excellence or equity from their story and record your experience and insights via voicemail at edupxe.com. Your contribution may be featured on this podcast. Are you listening? We are. Join the XE Listening Tour at edupxe.com. This episode is supported in part by Patriox Ultra High Oxygen Content Water. Drinking Patriox helps oxygenate the body, promoting overall health, energy, and vitality. In 2026, try Patriox on your journey for accelerated excellence. Receive a 10% discount on your next purchase with the code EdUpXE. That's 10% off with the code EdUpXE at patriox.us. Patriox.us. Find more details in the show notes. Welcome to EdUp Accelerated Excellence, the podcast for the advancement of educational excellence and equity. And I'm your host, Jacob Easley II, PhD, PMP. And today's guest is the wonderful Dr. Jennifer Young Wallace. She is the immediate past president of the Association of Teacher Educators, or ATE, and is an associate professor at Jackson State University. Thank you for tuning into the second part of our conversation with Dr. Wallace, where she continues to explain the complexities of National Association leadership and the growing diversification of engagement by members across different types of universities.
Thank you, Dr. Easley. I am Jennifer Young Wallace. I am an associate professor of Ed Leadership at Jackson State University, one of our premier HBCUs. I'm also faculty senate president there, where we are really interested in the future of higher education. So today, I am excited to share with you some of my vision and some of my experience in education. Presently, as Dr. Easley stated, I am the immediate past president of ATE, and it was a fabulous year of reiterating to educators as we train educators to leave a stamp on education. Leave a stamp on education. So my national theme was empowering a global community of leaders to leave a stamp. STAMP is an acronym. STAMP on education. S for social-emotional learning. T for transformational leadership. A for advocacy. M for multiculturalism, and P for professional practices. I'm so excited about that work because that work is extending into a model for leaders and a model for teachers. I think that every leader, every teacher needs to be intentional about leaving a stamp on education.
So, Jennifer, I want to make sure that we can have a balanced perspective on this. I'm so glad to hear about how your theme of leaving a stamp resonated with folks and was translated into the themes or the framework for the conference itself. But I also want folks to be aware that leadership is sometimes can be difficult. So what were some of the most challenging aspects of stepping into the presidency at ATE, and how did you navigate those challenges during your leadership in that position?
So as education is changing in America, so is ATE. So we have a new set of bylaws. And going into a presidency, there are so many things that need to be done, right? And you have a year. So you're trying to work your vision with your commissions and with your theme, but you also have the business of the organization. So as a leader, what I had to realize that I had a year. What are some priorities that I could bite off? Because there could be 101 things to do. But what are those things that you feel are readily available to address, or those things that need to be addressed at this point? What are some things that are way behind? So in speaking with the CEO, we got together. We talked about some things that needed to be done. So we made sure that we have our 5-year report, because those types of documents are important when you are being audited or when you are trying to move forward to write for grants, like what has this organization done over the past years. So we were able to get that 5-year report, and thanks to Dr. Lisa Chapman, the CEO, the work was done. So again, picking those things, I'm talking about the governance piece now, because you're still doing all your work with your presidency and your vision. But the governance piece or the operational piece, you have to choose those things that you can accomplish. And as my advice to the incoming president was this: you see a whole lot of things that need to be done, that need to be addressed. Choose those things that are most important to you. Bite off those pieces and make sure that those pieces come to fruition. And even though there were 101 things I would have loved to have done in my presidency, a good leader recognizes that priority is essential. Otherwise, you'll have so many moving pieces that nothing gets done. So the main challenge was, what pieces do I really want to bite off? Because I really want to eat the whole apple, but it's just not feasible in this 1 year time. So as a leader, I had to work with the CEO to see what her vision was from the operational perspective, and see how we as a board and I as a president can ensure that this work gets done, or work with them to get this work done. So that was the biggest challenge, because my personality will want to get it all done. But leadership, good leadership recognizes that priority is necessary. And it's okay for the next person to come in and pick up and move on with whatever was left behind, and then the person after her. That's how you build a tower.
So I like this idea of building a tower. And as you were speaking, it made me think about something. Having sat on boards for associations, had leadership roles. And when it comes to conference making, each year there's often a new theme. As you just mentioned, the new president has her theme. I'm wondering, you talked about how you anchored your theme by going back into the chronicles, looking at the older themes. So it makes me wonder, sometimes it can feel a bit schizophrenic. So you see a theme that says one thing this year, the next theme is something else, and then the third year it sort of harkens back to the year before. How do we, as folks who have associations, and you're developing this work for member engagement and community engagement, particularly around our conferences, how do we ensure there's some level of continuity? Because if we, in some ways, just leave one thing for one year and go to a completely different focus, are we driving continuity, or are we, as you mentioned earlier, as a leader, spreading ourselves too thinly across too many different interests? And what is the ongoing impact from conference to conference based around this conference making enterprise?
That is an excellent question. And that is why I created a task force on presidential's tenures. I'm sorry. So what I did when I became president, I went back into, I guess you could say, the archives and look what some things were. I saw a recurrence of advocacy over the years. So a lot of things are not new. I remember when multiculturalism and diversity was really hidden in American education. You'll see several themes around multiculturalism. You will see several themes that may not have said professional practices, but they were related. They were professional practices. So you're seeing consistency, but worded in a different way because of the trend or the policies of that time, right? So when I went back, I saw themes, and I saw some general descriptions, and I was like, how do we get continuity? Because I would like to know why this person chose this theme, which I could not find because there were descriptions. But why did Dr. Karen Robinson, who was president from New York, the state of New York, why did Dr. Karen Jenlick choose her theme, who was from Texas? Why did Dr. Nancy Gallivan choose her theme, or Dr. Shirley Lefevre choose her theme? Why did they choose them? So I was not able to see the why, but I saw a theme, I saw the era, and I saw a brief description, which was indicative. So as a result of that, I started a task force. We have about 20 living presidents right now. We have a questionnaire that has gone out, and Dr. Liz Ward, Dr. Kristen McIntyre, who's a past president, who started work on ATE's history, and Dr. Barbara Cassidy Pern from Texas. All of them are from Texas. They are working with this initiative, right, that falls under my presidency. We are going back to ask those presidents, why did you choose this thing? What was happening in America at that time that impacted your theme? What were your commissions, and why were they important to you? So, 100 years from now, when our relatives, the great-grands, great, etc., go back and do research, they will have a more precise understanding of the world of education for their time, because presidential themes are built around whether we vocalize it or not. But there's something innate that helps us choose our themes based on what we're experiencing in the world during that time. So that's why that initiative that task force was set in place so that we can be more specific. And maybe in the future, when the president comes in and reads about the why for these things, they can have a better understanding of why it is important to choose things that are relevant. And I do believe that presidents have chosen things that are relevant, but they really now have an intentional understanding about why these things were implemented during those presidencies. Thank you for that. That solidifies. That really makes me feel good that this task force is important for someone who didn't even know, and to ask the question that I asked when I was president and could not find a lot of information. I just had general explanations. Now we are delving in to get specifics. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome. I think that's just a really good, perhaps not in the same format that you're talking about, but I think it's a really good suggestion for organizations to have a brief on the context for the development of that theme for that particular year. So as you mentioned, I think, yes, the time or the context does shape how we think about what the theme might be, which really harkens back to this idea that all politics are personal. And what I mean by personal means that the context. So you may not be directly impacted, but you know folks who are impacted by the contemporary context. And what your peers and community members are feeling and seeing and how they're responding to the context. So yes, all of those decisions in some ways are very personal in that regard. So you've made, as you mentioned earlier, increasing HBCU representation within ATA a priority through finessing, as you mentioned earlier, relationship building. So why would you say this focus is so important for the future of the organization, given that I believe you alluded to there were in some states very few or very limited engagement of HBCUs with ATE?
Yes, across the nation, it's very few. I had never heard of ATE until 2013. ATE has been around since 1920. As a matter of fact, I think in the 70s, ATE had its first president from Mississippi. He was from Mississippi State, a white male from Mississippi State. I had never heard of ATE. As I talked to colleges of education, deans and professors who are working at those universities, a lot of them don't know anything about ATE. I have been their introduction to it. So commissions usually kick off after your presidency because you have 3 years to work with them. So we are just surging into this work because during that year you have so many things going on and you're still trying to build and see how your commission is going to be beneficial to the organization in the long run. So again, commissions are based on interests that help move the organization to the next level based on the trends of the time. And so we are an organization of diversity where we support the different diverse cultures and leadership styles, etc. So ATE embraced that. The board thought it was a good idea. Of course, you get your vetting from the board for your commissions. So now this work will begin. Dr. Edith Davidson from FAMU is leading this charge. And we are getting ready to have our first meeting in late April. We're starting with a group of deans from different HBCUs that have colleges of education, because not all HBCUs have degrees in education. So we're starting with those colleges of education that may also be a college of social science, education, and psychology. But again, education is embedded in there. So we're starting those conversations with those deans and chairs to share with them the importance of ATEs impact on their faculty and how their faculty can grow. So we're hoping to launch our first gathering in Seattle at the conference where Dr. Valerie Wright from St. Leo University is the president. So this work will continue, and hopefully we can emerge into a SIG where HBCU faculty. And again, I stress HBCU. We're not saying Black teachers or African American teachers and educators. We are saying faculty from HBCUs. So like FAMU is very diverse. Tennessee State is very diverse. Jackson State's faculty is very diverse. So it's not about the race of the university's faculty. It's about the category of the university, the HBCU, the MSI. So we're starting with HBCUs and then we're moving to MSIs, having those representations at ATE. So I just wanted to stress that because our faculty are very diverse, and our faculty, the goal is to get representation from HBCUs, regardless of the ethnic background of the faculty.
So, my heart is warmed by this description, and I'm saying this because, and I've never actually shared this before, but my first ATE conference, I attended as a doctoral student. I was at the Pennsylvania State University. We were receiving an award for our partnership in educator preparation. And I remember as a young African-American doctoral student, I'm not going to say young, a doctoral student, African-American male doctoral student, attending this conference for the first time. It was a bit concerning for me because, and maybe through my lens at that time, I found it to be predominantly white, predominantly in the leadership role. It seemed like they were mostly men. And everyone seemed to be of a generation, one or two generations my senior. So it was a strange place to be in. I didn't see a lot of junior or more individuals new to the profession. I didn't see a lot of people who looked like me at the conference. And I think that may have had colored why I have attended ATE since a few years later, but it has not been sort of the go-to place for me for a number of reasons. But there's also a reason why I went to AACTE, because my institution had a stronger partnership with AACTE in my doc program, and then getting engaged, continued the work to my current day professional role and experiences. So, but I will say that first experience at ATE was quite shocking, and that was in the early 2000s. So now hearing you talk about this ongoing work on professional relationship building, in some ways personal relationship building, but also diversifying the voices at the table really does speak volumes.
Yes. So the trends have definitely changed. We have an influx of younger people. We have a newcomers reception, and they make me feel old, right? I was almost 15 years ago, I was the younger one, right? They make me feel old, but the trends have changed. And we have a large number of young professors who are coming in. We are seeing more African Americans register and present at the conference. But I do understand, because when I went in 2013, I did not see a large representation from African Americans. As a matter of fact, when I was elected to the board, I saw there was an African-American male in attendance. So they introduced the board, and of course I stood. He came up to me after the session, the general session, and said, "Oh my God, I am so excited to see a Black face on the board because I've not seen that in a long time. Or no, as a matter of fact, he said he had never seen it. But I did share with him that over the years there had been some representation, maybe not as frequently as you would think. But those trends are changing now. They, as a matter of fact, when I was president, there were 2 other African Americans on the board at some given time. So the trends are changing. Again, I would hate for a person from an HBCU or of a minority ethnic background to miss out on the opportunities that ATE has to offer and the opportunity for professional growth to go to waste because people don't see people that look like them. So that is one reason why my task force or my commission was established, so that people won't be deterred from what could be a pot of gold because the gold may not be shining or have the color that you are familiar with. Because I understand. I'm an African American female. I understand, and I had the same thought, but fortunately, by building relationships, I really got to see that this was a great opportunity for professional growth and engagement and empowerment, being empowered to empower. That color kind of became in the back of my mind, but as I began to emerge in the operations of the organization, it came back to surface that okay, now is an opportunity to have more visibilities from those HBCUs as well as from people of color, even from the PWIs, because there are people of color working at PWIs that are now also becoming more engaged at ATE.
Yeah. I want to extend that a bit because it's making me think about representation broadly. So when we think about these, our traditional conference making machine at some of the large associations, representation does matter. But if you're in a traditional organization, it's often it's easy because, as we talked about context, your context is your context. So it drives how you think about your work.
Right.
But then there are folks who are in other contexts, such as community colleges, as you mentioned earlier, HBCUs, MSIs, small institutions, alternate route institutions. If you're in a large institution, traditionally formed and traditional based preparation, you're less likely to think about those others because that's not part of your lived experience and daily work environment or context. So I think it's important that we have to then think a bit more. We have to challenge ourselves to think beyond where we currently sit and the context in which we work to expand ourselves and think about others, particularly at the national level. And I believe that calls for different types of conversations. So with that, I'm going to lead us into a question about your research. So your research centers critical race theory through the lens of the Mississippi Black Caucus, and that's one of your projects. So how does scholarship grounded in history and justice inform your leadership in teaching and administration in general?
So that research on critical race theory, which is ongoing, and we got a lot of stuff that we're looking forward to implementing there. That research reiterates the need to advocate. And the big question is, how do educators advocate? Because right now there is a fear factor that is prevalent. Right? So for me, in this research, there is a need to advocate. There is also a need to revisit what we're arguing for. Because Personally, through my research, I'm wondering, why are we calling it critical race theory? Because so calling it critical race theory appears to intimidate or clog the minds of the people who are in place to make these policies and to reinforce these bans, right? Why are we calling it critical race theory? It's authentic history. Why are we saying, oh, well, we want students to think critically? Well, we do want the students to think critically, but to me, history is based on facts, occurrences. These things actually occurred. Slavery occurred. The Black Wall Street massacre occurred. The Holocaust occurred. Why are we calling this critical race theory when this is history? So if you look at history books back in the 80s and 90s and start looking at history books, not even publishing companies are facing these challenges because they don't want to put anything in there about slavery. And if they put Martin Luther King in the book, it has nothing to do with the argument or the fight for civil rights, the right to go through the front door, or the right to drink out of the same water fountain, or the right to sit in the same area on the bus or in any public facility. So again, why are we calling this critical race theory when these were occurrences? History is based on occurrence. Why are we saying critical race theory when we need to be saying authentic occurrences known, aka history? So we're fighting under the auspices of critical race theory when we need to be fighting under the auspices of authentic occurrences, teaching of history. So that is my whole concern here. And I know there are the theoretical versions of critical race theory, and critical race theory has its place because I understand what it is to do from its conception of the term and the conception of the courses that were taught. Like, for example, at Ole Miss here in Mississippi, the critical race theory was taught at Ole Miss, the first critical race theory course in the state. So why are they calling what we teach our children of the occurrences? World War I is not taken out. Vietnam War is not taken out. World War II is not taken out. The Revolutionary War is not taken out. That's authentic history, occurrences. Why have we taken out slavery? Why have we taken out the civil rights movement, the understanding? Why have we taken out the lynching? It is not intended to make anybody feel bad. It's just teaching history. So I'm not understanding the term critical race theory as it relates to the classroom. Critical race theory is over here on its own for something else to dig a little deeper to why people might have done things and using your critical thinking. But no, I'm talking about teaching facts. You don't even have to bring in my opinion, but just teaching facts. So I think our approach, we're under the wrong auspices. We are on, they're saying critical race theory when we need to be advocating for authentic history. That's what I take on it.
So, Dr. Wallace,
I get passionate about that. I'm sorry. I get passionate about that.
I love this passion. And I think this is a circular sort of position because I think the idea of race just makes people very uncomfortable. And that's because we really have not seriously dealt with our racial history in this country. And so it still makes people uncomfortable. And I don't want to say both sides of the aisle because I think there's more than one aisle. This is sort of one of those. There are multiple aisles that lead us down to this point around race in society. But CRT, or critical race theory, I think in many ways lends itself for you to be able to even ask this question about authentic history.
I am.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. Again, I'm still wondering why are we even there when it comes to that? Oh.
This episode is supported in part by Patriox Ultra High Oxygen Content Water. Drinking Patriox helps oxygenate the body, promoting overall health, energy, and vitality. In 2026, try Patriox on your journey for accelerated excellence. Receive a 10% discount on your next purchase with the code AddUpXE. That's 10% off with the code AddUpXE at patriox.us. Patriox.us. Find more details in the show notes. Listen. Are you listening? Listening is more than hearing. It's the engine of transformation. When leaders truly listen, they unlock hidden insights and spark meaningful change. The power of listening turns quiet voices into catalysts for educational excellence and equity. We've launched the XE Listening Tour, a journey dedicated to amplifying every voice, especially those least heard from. And we want to hear from you. This week, seek out a voice least heard from, a community member, a parent, or a student. Let us know what you learned about educational excellence or equity from their story and record your voicemail at edupxe.com. Your contribution may be featured on this podcast. Are you listening? We are. Join the XE Listening Tour at edupxe.com.
I was in Connecticut last year. I visited the Mark Twain's Museum, and I think it's symbolic. There's a case, like a bird cage, locked up. And they have books that America has pulled off the shelf, like Tom Sawyer, The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, books, even Alice Walker's a book about different people, different cultures. It's a cartoon. It's a child's book. They pulled it. Anything that talked about differences in there. And if you read her book has all races. Like, and she's not degrading any race. She's just saying we're all different. I am Black. I am Hispanic. I am white. I am Indian. I'm Native American. So it's pulled off the shelf. And I heard my governor here in Mississippi say, we don't want our children to feel bad about the actions of our forefathers. Okay, then take history out altogether. Revolutionary War, you left Europe, you came to America, you fought the British, blood was shed, but you don't want to teach the Civil War. Again, those discrepancies appear to me hypocrisy. So discrepancy in this case equals hypocrisy, because some can stay and some can't. You get to choose what does not offend certain groups of people, a certain group of persons.
Well, usually, again, politics are personal, so it doesn't offend me and my constituent group.
Right.
Not necessarily certain people. It doesn't offend me and my constituent group or groups. And
I know where you're going. Yes. So again, my big concern is the term. Sometimes I think terms can misdirect intent, or should I say phrases or titles or or what you're naming the cause can negatively impact the actual intent. And again, okay, for example, when I learned about Black Wall Street, I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma to visit a friend. And this may have been 10 years ago. And saw the statue, like, what is that? Had never, I'm embarrassed to admit. But when I found out about it, I went and read about it. And I was like, wow. A lot of African Americans who made contributions to society, I would not have known about it had I not been a reader, or my mom bought a book on African American contributions to America. But again, that was just one household. Did not see them in my history books. And now, if you think it's scarce back then, imagine what it looks like now with this critical race theory ban, which I'm still trying to understand why. Well, I guess I'm trying to make logic of it. I understand why, but I'm just trying to make logic. And sometimes there's just no logic. Well, all the time, Grandmama used to say, there is no logic in foolishness. Point blank. So I'm just trying to understand, why are we banning our teachers from teaching authentic history? So it's so bad that teachers don't know what to teach. So I interviewed legislators who were meeting with their constituents, and teachers were concerned because they don't know what a child may go back and tell his or her mom about the lesson for the day. And if a parent complains and it becomes problematic, districts can lose money, funding. So teachers don't know what to do. They don't know what to teach. And history teachers are livid. But there is policy out there. There are laws out there that say, no, you cannot teach this in this book. To Kill a Mockingbird was pulled from the shelf? Really, Black Boy was pulled from the shelf? I mean, it is amazing. Anything that alluded to slavery and the treatment of African Americans during that time, those books are banned. Or anything that's fiction, nonfiction, regardless, is pulled. And my question is why? Because teaching history is not intended to make somebody feel bad about what occurred hundreds of years ago. As one legislator said in my findings, he said, if people don't know where we've been, they don't know what to advocate for in the future. And history can repeat itself because you never knew what to stand against because it has been banned. And eventually, the goal is that this totally fades out. Slavery will be something up in cyberspace somewhere. It won't even be in print anywhere. That is the goal. And so the advocacy piece here is so important. How are we advocating for this? So now people got to vote. You got to vote, and you have to put people back in the places that can go back into and overturn these laws and policies that have been set during this era. That's the state of education we're in right now in America. And that's where that advocacy piece came in for me. Because in order to leave a step, sometimes we got to advocate so that we're able to teach and do what we need to do in the classroom. I can't imagine trying to make anybody feel bad about history that occurred, because history means something that happened in the past, right? or something. So whatever I do today, tomorrow is in the past. So history is going to keep on making. It's always going to be in the past. So my concern is, why are we making it look, the subject itself, why are we making it look bad to teach what occurred? And who gets to choose what's okay? That's the big question. Who said you get to choose what's okay? Whew.
I think we're going to leave that right there, because those are powerful questions, and we're going to let it breathe for a minute. So, Dr. Wallace, what advice would you give to anyone who is considering education as a profession in this current context, as you're advocating for leaving a stamp? What advice would you give them? And I'm gonna open this up. When I say the profession, I mean P-12, but also university level preparation for those who might want to pursue educator preparation.
Someone asked me that question a few weeks ago, and it has stuck with me. And then this is just in general conversation. In this time, first of all, so of course, I'm just going to reiterate the challenges. Low pay. And this is based on research that I've read that reiterate these things. Low pay. Teachers feel unappreciated. Stigmas. Bans on what can be taught and how it can be taught. Lack of discipline. Lack of parental engagement, lack of parental and sometimes district and school support from leaders. All of that. And what can I tell a teacher? What could I tell someone who says, Dr. Wallace, I was thinking about teaching. What do you think? And my first thing that I would have to say, ask them, do you have a passion to make a difference in a child's life or a student's life? Because if it's higher ed, do you have a passion to make a difference? Do you have a love to empower somebody to be great? Do you really want to interact with students who come from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic statuses, different values, beliefs, norms? Do you really want to have to work with this kind of population? If your answer is yes, you're in the right field. So my advice to you is that you are needed. And if this is your passion and something you really want to do, we need you, because you are going to be the change agent that's going to impact the world, because you are releasing students into the world. The meaning, the reward comes from your passion to serve, to teach, to learn, to empower. So my recommendation to you is go in there and leave a stamp on it.
That's beautiful, because it speaking to me in a different way, on a different wavelength. So for those people who say yes, those aspiring individuals who say yes, then what is our role and responsibility as stewards within the profession to now support and develop them?
Very good. So again, as we are teaching content, and that's why scenarios are so important. I love using scenarios in when I'm teaching. I teach leadership. I teach multiculturalism. I teach theories. We have scenarios that, of course, are real occurrences. I think that that's important in our teaching. And I know research is good, but there are times when we are training, when we're teaching Dr. Isa, we got to get real practical. We gotta come on down to what are some real scenarios that are occurring in these schools, so that students are not shocked like I was. I didn't have a whole lot of scenarios. So let me give you an example. I came from a home, again, this understanding who you are. I came from a home with a mama and daddy. Rules. We had books. Learning was in the background. Not the background, was in the forefront. Education was in the forefront. So we're investing in you and your sister. So I wanted to work. I wanted to work my junior year. I wanted to work a job at McDonald's. I went to my parents and asked them, could I work? They said no. My dad said, I'll take care of this house. You don't need to work. You got everything you need. I was like, but I want to work. I have opportunity. I can make some money and buy some of the things I want. And so, of course, you get to go to your mom. I was able to get to my mom. My mom talked to my dad. They came back. They said, okay, here are the rules for you to work. Number one, you can only work on Friday and Saturday. You will not work through the week because your grades are important and you are getting a scholarship to college. Okay? Number two, you work on Friday night, of course, from 5 to 11 because you get out of school at 3. You go to your great aunt's house and you call us when you get there. It should take you about 30 minutes to get to her house. At 11:30, because my mom knew the schedule, she had talked to the manager. You get to your auntie's house and you call us. Saturday, you work from 11 to 5. At 7 o'clock, you need to be in this house. Sunday, you get up and go to church. Friday and Saturday. So my grades didn't change. I was excited, making my money. Here I am, a teacher. Students are sleeping in my class, and I'm just insensitive, novice, no real training on scenario or social emotional learning. A student is sleeping, and every day I'm like, wake up, why are you sleeping in my class? I'm going to send you to the principal's office. And I'm just all over the place as a teacher. And one day, I guess the student had enough of me. And the student says, Miss Young, I'm going to talk to you after class. And when class was over, he came to me. He said, Miss Young, I sleep in your class because I don't get out of work. I don't get home to 1 o'clock. I have to get up at 5 o'clock to catch the bus. I work. I'm looking. I work. And my mama told me that if I didn't work, I had to get my A out of her MBF house. Now, do you know how I felt this small? I felt like a speck that you couldn't see with a microscope. Because I didn't even take the time to see what was going on with this student, because where I'm from, you don't work. Your mama and there are provisions. Surely if your mama allows you to work, she's going to have some rules and regulations that don't impede upon your education. Everybody is like me, because that's the way it is as a teacher. These are my norms and my values and my belief, and everybody is like it. Well, guess what? That kid changed my world, because I had to go back, and you know what I did? I found out that was a smart kid. I worked with him. I allowed him time because he had to lay his head somewhere. But I was totally insensitive and did not have those scenarios to make me think about me imposing my experiences up on these students. Now, of course, you can give some guidance and some recommendations, but I was totally imposing. So that's why I say in preparation, we have to have scenarios that are real and to talk about these things, because in this day and time, this era of learning, these teachers are going to face things a lot worse than kids who have to work in their homes. So that to me, that's an important part of training. That social emotional learning piece is crucial.
So I'm going to empathize with you, and hopefully that you, because I can hear that you are still feeling some guilt around that first experience, which is not warranted because you could only operate out of the knowledge base that you had at the time, and your intentions were not negative towards the demise of this particular student. But I'm so happy that, as you talk about, advocacy is one of those elements of taking a stamp, making a stamp, or leaving a stamp. Your student was able to advocate for himself, having a conversation with you. But I also think that you answered the question around the critical race and authentic history, and why we make the rules we make, because we're operating out of our own lived experiences. So if you've never had that experience of having your family sort of really restrict you from working, and if you do work, lay down these parameters, because you asked to work. It wasn't a matter of your parents asking you to work. And here's a student whose parent is saying, if you don't work, you cannot stay under my roof.
It's real.
So that's not something that many of us would conceive of. And so when we make rules and policies, we're operating out of our own lived experiences without having, as a very top of the conversation, you talked about relationship building, which means you have to speak to other people outside of your sphere. And that's why I think this has become a full circle moment.
And this interview is really stirring up some stuff to see what you're really reiterating to me why this work is important. Thank you for this. Thank you, because you are really you're reminding me why I do this.
Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Jennifer Young Wallace, what is next for you through your scholarship, through your advocacy, through your ongoing relationship with ATE, and how might the EdUp Accelerated Excellence community engage with your work?
Well, thank you. So first, I am excited to really get this framework for STEM, for leaders, and for educators. So when I say leaders, I'm talking about principals, superintendents, even though they can be similar, but there's still some difference on what a STEM administrator could look like and what a STEM educator, teacher could look like, right? Even I've been a school counselor, maybe what a STEM counselor could look like, right? Because that's a whole nother conversation about how counselors are not being used for what they were trained. But so this work that I'm kicking off into is the framework of STEM and what that could look like, right? And just starting the research on making this pop. I'm not trying to get something that's so philosophical. I just want something that's ABC. If I want to be a STEM educator, how would I look in the mirror? Okay, the ABCs of a STEM educator. And then
can I change it to the STAMP of educators and educator leaders?
Yes, that's right. That is, I like that. And then I want to research my research, and I have 3 areas of major interest, and I have these 3 down. The first one is I want to finish the work on critical race theory to see how this could be maybe reworded, retitled. I don't know, but I want to go on and get back into this research. And I also want, I had begun talking to dropouts based on my experience as a teacher, having those guys who have probationary officers that I learned they've never graduated, right? Because they need more than my class to pass, right? So why what happened? And I know that there's research out there that's very theoretical. I don't even want to be theoretical in this. I want to sit down and have these conversations. And I want to find out. And I want to turn these conversations into scenarios that could be beneficial to teachers to recognize a kid that I heard somebody say at risk, but then I read where they said, no, you're not at risk. You are not a risk. You are a possibility. Right. But this dropout, these kids that drop out, why? And even white males, I want to go to the jail and I want to talk to these black and white males to find out, why did they drop out of school? What happened? I want to find out from the white male, why did you drop out? America was built for your success. What happened? Maybe that can be an impact. That could be impactful for teachers. That could also be reflective in African Americans when we're teaching African American boys. So I had begun this work, and I want to finish this work. And lastly, academic mobbing. And let me tell you what I mean by academic mobbing. That's third on the list. So I'm talking about my research with my publications. Again, that would also lead into books. Of course, we've talked about the HBCU initiative. So that's more of like an initiative commission that stands on its own. And a lot of this work is going to fall into the HBCUs because there's academic mobbing there. There's the issue with critical race theory there. We have a lot of students who drop out, who come to college for a semester, drop out. So it's all going to kind of overlap with the HBCU. But academic mobbing on college campuses among faculty, you would be surprised at you may not be surprised. There's a difference in politicking and flat out mistreatment. Because sometimes in politicking, we don't always get the promotion. We don't always get the raise. We don't always get the recognition. That's different. But I'm talking about just flat foot targeting and to the point that your goal is to push them out. So you have gone beyond the politics and you have now become hostile and you are literally mobbing these people. So again, those are my three focuses there. So that's the future for Dr. Wallace at this point.
And how might folks connect with you?
I can be reached at JKYWALLACE, JKY Wallace at yahoo.com. I can also be reached at Jackson State University, Jennifer.K.Young at JSUMS.edu. And once you make that connection with me, I will get back with you. My website right now, again, as we're building this framework, I have someone now working on my logo and also working on my social media, as well as my email address, URL. So right now I'm using JKY and Jennifer.K.Young at JSUMS.edu. But there are some things that are in the work that are literally probably at work as we are speaking.
And Dr. Wallace, I believe you're also on LinkedIn.
Oh yes, I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook, Jennifer Young Wallace. I am on LinkedIn. Please feel free to contact me there. And even when I get this other stuff completed, and my goal is May to have all of that done, I'm still going to stay on Facebook and I'm going to stay on LinkedIn and looking forward to Instagram.
So Dr. Jennifer Young Wallace, thank you for this opportunity to learn with and from you here at EdUp Accelerated Excellence, where we seek to advance educational excellence and equity.
Thank you. This has been an honor, an opportunity, and a true privilege. Thank you.
Thank you for engaging with EdUp Accelerated Excellence, a member of the EdUp Experience Network of educational podcasts. And we encourage you to participate in our XE listening tour by listening to the educational stories of others and sharing your thoughts with us at edupxe.com. You can find this and other episodes on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Radio, YouTube, and other outlets where you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like this episode, don't forget to follow us and share within your network. To leave a comment or suggest a guest, contact us online at edupxe.com.
A special thanks to our research assistant, Emma Worthington, a PhD student of Fordham University's School Psychology program. And we want to hear from you. If you have feedback on this or other episodes, or would like to nominate a guest, contact us online at edupxe.com, where you can leave an email or a voice message. That's edupxe.com.